Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. So, our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has been out there making choices. Are they good ones? Well, you decide. Yesterday, instead of actually, trying to deal with some of the fundamental issues that Canada as a country is facing, Mark Carney and his Liberal government decided to officially recognize the state of Palestine. I don't know what we're going to do next, maybe recognize the state of Narnia, but Palestine is not a real country. And I don't just mean this in a derogatory way to dunk on Palestine. It quite literally doesn't have an actual capital. It is split between Gaza and the West Bank, both of which are run by terrorist organizations. And there's no real institutions on the ground for normal people. They are states purely run for the pleasure of the terrorist groups that sit on top, and that is it. It is a failed state if it is a state. And for some reason, we did this, despite the fact that when previously Mark Carney had made statements about moving towards this, he had said, we will recognize them if, and then the bullet points were like a bunch of stuff that's never going to happen, like having an election in the West Bank and having Hamas not be in charge of Gaza. It was something where he was like virtue signaling. At the same time, he was obviously trying to make sure the bar was very high so he would never actually have to officially do it, and then he just officially did it anyways. We have even like progressive politicians out there saying that this was, quite the thing to do and not in a good way. I'm going to cut later on to a clip of former federal NDP leader Thomas Mulcair, who maybe isn't even necessarily like anti-Palestine in any way. I'm not sure if he's pro-Israel or pro-Palestine. I have no clue. But even he was like pretty confused by why this was even done. So he posted this, and it says today Canada recognizes the state of Palestine, and it just says underneath again, Canada recognizes the state of Palestine. Quote, Canada recognizes the state of Palestine and offers our partnership in building the promise of a peaceful future for both the state of Palestine and the state of Israel. But let's read a little bit more and we will go into the full statement because it's this is very morally irresponsible. But Mark Carney really wants to please the same progressive, insane activists who have been screaming at his ministers outside their homes. They've been protesting outside of Melanie Jolie's home, Anita Anand's home, and frankly, these people are probably not even going to vote liberal even after doing this. These people are the hardest activists to please on the planet because they will always shift the goalpost even further because really they just hate Israel and some of them even just hate Jews. So naturally, even just recognizing Palestine will not be good enough. And again, you can't really recognize Palestine because it's not a coherent state in any way. This is like recognizing, I don't even know. It's like trying to recognize the Houthi controlled part of Yemen. I guess it technically exists, but doesn't really exist in the sense that it's a country that interacts with the rest of the world. No, not really. It's a giant prison full of terrorists. Anyways, so this is what was posted to the Prime Minister's website, and it says, quote, since 1947, it's been the policy of every Canadian government to support a two-state solution for lasting peace in the Middle East. This envisioned the creation of a sovereign, democratic, and viable state of Palestine, building its future in peace and security alongside the state of Israel. Okay, well, yeah, that's true, and it's fine to be in favor of a two-state solution, obviously, but you need an actual state of Palestine in order to actually create a two-state solution. You can't just wave a magic wand over the situation and say, "Oh, there is now a Palestinian state." There is not. And even in Gaza and even in the West Bank, there are parts of those places where the terrorist governments don't even really control the entire territory. We have Islamic Jihad that also controls parts of the Gaza Strip and also parts of the West Bank. There are Hamas affiliates in the West Bank that fight Fatah on the Palestinian Authority for control. It is a complete mess. There are no elections. They literally pay people to kill Jews in Israel, and you get a pension for your family if you die in doing the deed. To put murder in a very light way there. But it goes on and says, over many decades, Canada's commitment to this goal was premised on the expectation that this outcome would be eventually achieved as part of a negotiated settlement. Regrettably, this possibility has been steadily and gravely eroded, including by, and the first bullet point is the pervasive threat of Hamas terrorists to Israel and its people, culminating in the heinous terrorist attack on October 7th, 2023, and Hamas's long-standing and violent rejection of Israel's right to exist and the two-state solution. And then they go on to basically say that settlers and settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem are holding back the peace process and all the settlement plan stuff and the Israeli government. And it's so telling about the attitude of our current liberal government towards our allies, because Israel is an ally just as the United States is an ally, and our government slags the United States constantly. But that we are in the bullet points of why is there no peace? We have one bullet point for the genocidal terrorist group, and we have three bullet points for the Israelis doing very mild things like settlers who end up taking unoccupied areas of the West Bank and setting up a new settlement there. Are they technically supposed to be there? It's actually kind of hard to even explain whether or not that's legal or illegal, because again, you can't take away territory from something that doesn't exist. It's not like that's the state of Palestine's land. The state of Palestine isn't a thing. But again, we have 3 points against Israel, and we have 1 point against the actual genocidal terrorist organization, Hamas. We don't have any points about Islamic Jihad. We don't have any points about Fatah and the Palestinian authorities pay for slave programs. We have nothing like that. But the thing is, again, this document has nothing to do with the situation. This document has to do with domestic Canadian politics and trying to please progressive, crazy people. But now let's jump over to something else. I want to talk a little bit about some of the reactions that we've seen to this online, including on the news with Tom Mulcair. I want to start off with that, and then I want to look at some of the other online reactions, and then I want to cut to Mark Carney's housing proposal that he made the other day. I just found the video kind of funny in the context of just how bad things have been. But here is Thomas Mulcair on CTV News reacting to the news.
A lot of roadblocks in here, and I'm not sure that they've been thinking this one through completely.
Tom, since you spoke about the statement and how the Prime Minister has spoken about Israel too, very, very critical, and I want to read a part of that statement for our viewers. The statement goes on to say that its sustained assault, which is Israel's sustained assault in Gaza, has killed tens of thousands of civilians, displaced well over 1 million people, and caused a devastating and preventable famine in violation of international law. It is now the avowed policy of...
And that's just a lie. There's famine in Gaza, not because Israel doesn't provide food. Technically, it shouldn't even be their responsibility to provide food, but they send in millions of meals into Gaza every single week. And they've actually had to start taking over the distribution of food in Gaza from the United Nations, because the United Nations in Gaza is effectively part of Hamas. They help sustain Hamas. The UNRWA workers in Gaza literally participated both in the October 7th attack, as well as participated in helping hide hostages, helping hide Hamas militants. Obviously, there's going to be casualties in urban warfare, but even in Israel, the ratio has been like almost, or in Gaza, the ratio has been like 1-to-1, which is unheard of. Do you think that was the ratio when fighting was going on inside of Berlin or other major cities during World War II? Obviously not. Usually way more civilians are dying than soldiers, but Israel's been pretty meticulous at trying to only take strikes when they think they can isolate the militants alone, but obviously that doesn't always work out, especially when the militants hide behind civilians. So what Mark Carney's doing here is smearing them. He's just smearing an ally. He has all the data available to them. It's all objectively based. They can, every time Israel gets accused of just murdering a bunch of people, later on it comes out, oh yeah, never mind, that was technically Hamas that did that. And it's the CBC will print this stuff. And then on the old adage that, the misinformation is on page 1, and then the retraction is a week later on page 20. That's what it always happens in the media, but Mark Carney seems to only base his opinions off of media releases from some of the most left-wing papers he can find.
The current Israeli government that there will be no Palestinian state. Tom, your view on such a critical statement, what does it do to relationships between Israel and Canada moving forward?
It's going to be difficult. And these are things that stay on the record for a long time.
Yeah.
Canada's always been seen as fair-minded, as being able to look at very complex situations like this one and be positive, constructive, come up with solutions. This is strong, but it's also a bit facile. It's easier said than done. Concretely, how does this play out in the current situation? So there's a line in there where the Canadian government is affirming that Hamas will play no role in a future Palestinian government. Really? We get to decide that? And the war that's going on right now, and especially the part about the famine, is unforgivable for what's happening to civilians. We can all agree on that. But at the same time, Hamas has the avowed intention of destroying the state of Israel.
And also, they're the ones literally executing Palestinians on live television who were caught trying to get food. Literally, they are trying to eat food so they can survive. And that is considered a crime in Gaza because the food is the terrorist organization's food. And I know Tom Mulcair is more of a progressive himself, so he won't mention that sort of stuff. But even he, right there, he made the statement, well, it's strong, but it's also facile. Well, of course it's facile. This is a document to try and win progressive voters in Canada. And again, it probably won't even work. These people are the types who were protesting the Liberals shortly after they made the initial claim that they were going to recognize the state of Palestine. Because these people, nothing will ever be good enough for them because they're zealots. But now let's jump over to something that Mark Carney did in the aftermath of this, which was quite incredible. This happened 5 hours ago that this was posted, that Mark Carney is out there in Israel, not Israel, but sorry, but in the Jewish community in Toronto, celebrating Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, this is a really good look. Right after you, right? Oh my goodness, the tight smiles in this video are, oh my, Anthony Housefather right there. Anthony Housefather right there on the right side of the screen. What an embarrassing MP. He is the Liberal MP for the riding of Mount Royal, I believe, pretty much mostly Jewish riding in Montreal. How much more pathetic could you get that you're still willing to meet with your boss the day after he basically kicked your community in the face? You know, just did the dumbest thing ever, and you're still just going to act like nothing's strange while he pretends like he gives a crap about Rosh Hashanah. And I say that in the context, I don't think most politicians really care about random religious holidays unless they themselves celebrate them. In fact, actually, I think that in time, it'd be good if politicians just basically only celebrate the ones they care about and then the national holidays, and that's kind of it. But anyways, so, because my thing is I just don't like politicians faking stuff. But I liked some of this commentary from people online in the aftermath of it. This guy, John Thompson here, said what they posted versus what I see. And it says Canada recognizes the state of Palestine. It's the same one in both sides, but I like over on this one how he just edits in some Hamas militants into the background while Carney is signing the document. Yeah, no, good thing that we're backing these guys up. Even the leader of Hamas himself, I forget what the man's name is, a scumbag, came out to actually say, well, see, this is what October 7th has brought us, saying that this is a direct result of us going into Israel and killing thousands of Jews, that now we have gotten the world's attention and gotten the world's respect. It's like, yeah, okay, my goodness. And I know that France and the UK did it too. They are also getting to be morally bankrupt countries like Canada under the Liberal government. So I don't see that we have any solace in being not the only one doing something stupid like this. I think we shouldn't have done this at all. And now we are going to have worse relations, not just with Israel, but we are going to have worse relations with the United States. And we still don't have a trade deal with them. So this looks really, really good. You'll even remember Donald Trump on his Truth Social account back in July when we had first made the general announcement that we were going to do something like this. He was like, wow, oh boy, look at what Canada's doing. It's going to make it hard to sign a trade deal with them. It's like, oh my goodness, we're so flippin' stupid. Like, we could have just avoided all of this. But let's end on something more, not positive, but less foreign policy based. Here is here is Mark Carney's new video, trying to seem like a very serious guy when it comes to the issue of housing in Canada. This off of the heels of him setting up a fake work site to speak in front of because there wasn't actually many places where new housing was being built, so they faked building a new house so he could announce his new housing strategy. But here's the video he made from his office.
Build Canada Homes is now up and running, and it's focused on one thing: building affordable homes at a scale and speed that we haven't seen for generations. Build Canada Homes is working with builders and government to build smarter, using Canadian technology, Canadian workers, and Canadian lumber to produce good quality, affordable, and sustainable homes. We're going to bring supply up.
Also, what's the music in the background here? It sounds like he's like a villain, like the reet, 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 reet on the violins in the background. This is normally like the scene where like the villain's laying out his plan and like the music starts up. It starts like reet, 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 and the person's like talking about all the people we need to eliminate. But like all this is just made, to use Tom Mulcair's word, facile. We're going to build homes with Canadian technology. Well, I believe the Buy Canadian Act, or it's like the piece of legislation or the plan around trying to get people to like use more Canadian products, it doesn't really even really come into effect until like next year. I think it will initially start having some impact in November. But even then, the build, like I think it was like I forget what it was. All these acts ends up being really generically named. But his whole plan is actually going to clash with this housing plan. The plan of getting people to use Canadian technology and materials is going to end up causing builders to build more slowly. And every time you create a new agency, a new bureaucracy, it's going to slow things down. Because instead of someone just rubber stamping it, saying, here's your permit, okay, yeah, generally everything looks good, go for it. We'll send an inspector at some point to make sure everything's being done correctly. We have, okay, I'll take this piece of paper and I'll hand it off to somebody else, and we're going to review it in the next 30 days. And then we're going to come back to you and let you know any revisions you have to make. And then we'll come back and blah, blah, blah. And after 6 years, we'll fast track you. It's like, what? How about we just basically start mass approving new housing permits? How about we just start doing that? And again, you don't even have to destroy zoning in order to do it. The main problem with blanket rezoning in places like my city of Calgary, by the way, guys, if you live in Calgary, please vote for Sonia Sharp. I kept getting attacked because like, why it's a paid Sonia Sharp shill. No. I am a paying Sonia Sharp shill. I donated $1,000 to her and I have not been paid a cent. So, hey, linked in the description below. If you guys live in Calgary, please get a Sonia Sharp sign. But the problem with blanket rezoning in Calgary is that the intention is, oh, we're going to be able to build more stuff. It's going to make it so that we get more units on the market. Like, I guess so. But the real fix is gutting the permitting office and speeding up the process. Because right now, the amount of time it takes to actually get approved for a building permit in the city of Calgary and many other cities across Canada is too long. The solution isn't saying just build bigger buildings. Yeah, it does still take 300 days or so in order to actually get approved. But you see, now what we will do is we'll let you build a 12-plex instead of 2 single-family houses. We could have just made the single-family detached houses in we could have approved you in like 2 weeks, maybe 30 days. It's a plot of land. It's in an area that's already been zoned for the same type of housing. We'll look and make sure that the pit, you're not going to, blow out any gas lines or water pipes from the city. Look at it. If you could approve them faster, developers that was basically it. Blanket rezoning is a bribe to developers. It's not that the developers are doing something wrong. The developers aren't bribing the government to go let them do something. The government's saying, okay, we're still going to make it very difficult to get a permit, but if you do get that permit, we'll let you build something bigger. I think most developers don't actually mind zoning laws. They just want to get to building. If you just say, yeah, you generally have to follow the zoning within your area, they're like, sure, that's fine with us, but can we actually start building? That's the problem. You never actually get to the point where you can start building in many of these cities until like a year later. And even then, you have to stop your building multiple times in order to just have another inspection occur. And so you're paying employees to stand around while an inspection occurs, because an employee's not just going to say, oh yeah, no worry, boss man, I'm just going to go not get paid for 2 weeks and sit at home. you still have to pay them, and they're still going to have to generally be on site and do the little bit of work that they still can do. But that's the problem, is that we don't incentivize people to actually do the thing that their industry is based around. We don't let the home building industry build homes. We make them build specific things that we want in the time that we want. As bureaucrats, it works for their schedule. But anyways, so that should be it for this video, guys. Hopefully you didn't mind this very all over the place video. I know a lot of people don't like when I talk about foreign policy, especially around Israel, because you will get people in the comments being like, no, 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 Israel is committing a genocide. Oh my goodness. It's the only genocide on the planet where the population of the place being genocided apparently has been going up, because it's not. It's a war that Hamas started. I don't know how to explain any different. Like, I saw this. Oh my goodness. I'll pull this up on screen. It just bothered me so much. Now I have to show you guys. End of video rant for those who stick around for these things. I saw this the other day and it was so stupid I had to respond to it. This is from Pamphlets magazine. It is an extremely socialistic outlet. And it says right here, if this is terrorism showing 9/11, what the F is this? And it's parts of Gaza City that have been demolished. And it's like, okay, well, what do you think Berlin? Let's look up what Berlin looked like at the end of World War II. Because I can tell you that it didn't look very good at the time, because turns out when a war occurs, it's gonna look pretty nasty. And these are much better constructed buildings overall. So, like, yeah, this is what the city looked like after World War II. And this is actually a little bit after it's been cleaned up. There are other parts of the city that got completely demolished. And these are much tougher built buildings than in Gaza. That's also why things are not standing in Gaza. It's because it's being run by a terrorist group. So what kind of good contractor is going to be working out in there? You know, they're all going to leave to Egypt. They're all going to go to Israel and build up stuff where there is an Arab population who lives completely fine. I've been to Israel. I've talked to Palestinian people who live within the borders of Israel in Arabic towns, and they like it way better, because they even requested a wall be built between them and the West Bank, because they said everyone out in the West Bank are thieves and keep taking their stuff from them. But anyways, so that should be it for me today, guys. Finally, you're now rid of me for a bit. But hopefully you'll come back and watch another video from me. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment on what you think, and I will see you guys in another video, whether today or tomorrow. I don't know. I'm kind of lazy with the schedule, although I do make something every day, so I'm not lazy. Well, I still am. But anyways, see you guys later.